At this time, we'll call the meeting of May 26, 2015 to order. We have Troop 455 here. They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys will come up.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go, screwing up these kids. Okay, guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Verification of agenda posting.
Oh, wait, you're not staying?
You're not staying? Gonna go buy him Slurpees?
Want to do roll call?
Kids, you should have.
Roll call, please.
It's Tuesday.
Councilmember Clower?
Here.
Councilmember Gomez?
Here.
Mayor Velazquez?
Here.
Councilmember Friend?
Here.
Councilmember Luna? City Manager Avera?
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan?
Present.
Chief of Police Westrick?
Present. Thank you very much. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister special meeting of May 26, 2015 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on May 20th, 2015 at 11:32 a.m. per Government Code Section 54956.
Thank you very much. Let's move forward with item A, consent resolution. Are there any items the council would like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull A10 and A13.
A10, A13. Any other items from council? I'd like to pull item A11 and 12. Do we have any speakers from the audience? Any items?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Let's move forward to item A10. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion that we approve all the consent as amended.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Item A10 is a supplemental appropriation for the purchase of a 4,000-gallon water truck. This water truck will be used daily by the water department to capture the water that has, until we get this, currently flows down the storm drain. On a daily basis, we have to go out and do chlorine residual testing throughout the city. In order to do that, we have to flow fire hydrants for up to 10 minutes in some areas of the city to get a fresh sample. Depends on how long the water line is, whether it's a dead-end water line, etc. If we have this piece of equipment, we'll be able to capture that water and then use it to water the street trees downtown or water the trees in the parks as we go through this drought. This item has an added benefit of being a water tender for the fire department. In an emergency, they would have access to this piece of equipment, and it could be used as a supplemental water supply for our fire department. And there are still areas of the city where this would be a necessary piece of equipment. A lot of the airport does not have fire hydrants currently, so they would need a piece of equipment like this to supplement the water flow.
Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Friend?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted the clarification and thank you for doing that.
So, $190,000 is quite a bit of money to, for years we've been doing this, just letting the water flow.
Mm-hmm.
It has to run at for 10 minutes?
Some areas of the city have to run for up to 20. Just because, you know, it's a quarter-mile long 8-inch pipe, and you got to get the stuff that's been sitting there out and get a fresh sample to know what the proper chlorine level is out of that area.
Can we use a smaller truck, something that's less expensive? I think it's hard to justify $190,000.
Well, when I researched this, we looked at possibly renting a truck for the duration of the drought, and to rent a truck, it's $15,000 a month. We looked at getting a trailer a tank to put on a trailer to drag. It's not very, it's going to be kind of a Mickey Mouse situation. It's going to be awkward. The areas they have to get into, it's not going to work very well. Smaller trucks, we looked at, there really isn't that much cost savings. And about $35,000 of this price is to equip this thing so the fire department can use it. The truck itself is coming in at about $160,000. A used truck, which we also looked at, which are coming from lumber companies, which means they're pretty well used up, they range in the $130,000 range. So with that small of price difference between the options, my recommendation was to go ahead and purchase the truck.
And if we weren't in a drought situation, if it had rained this year, would we be talking about this?
If we were not in the water restrictions and stuff, I would not have brought this item, no. But truth is, I kind of thought long and hard of, are we doing the right thing, letting all that water go down the drain? And it looks like with climate change and the way we're going, it probably isn't the right way to do business.
I just have a hard time with the $190,000 for the truck. I understand the need to capture the water.
I think the other thing to keep in mind, Council, as Mike mentioned, it is being used as a dual purpose, and there are sections of this city that, quite frankly, don't have adequate fire service. For instance, out at the airport, there aren't many hydrants that are available. So again, having this be available for the fire department to use on a regular basis is again, I think that's probably what should be our focus, is that we're adding a piece of apparatus to our public safety department that is critical. And so as our department is fighting fires in South County, there's only one water tender that we currently have. We can have one in town or one at a remote location filling up while one is being utilized at the fire location. So it actually works nicely as backup. And also in the event that if you have our current water tender for the fire department, if that should happen to break down or be no longer in service, then we don't have anything available to us. So I think that's probably the real benefit here as well.
So the water tender we have now, how many gallons does that hold?
4,000.
4,000 also? So this is not coming out of the fire department?
No, we're using water enterprises funds for this.
Is there any other questions? Do we have any questions from audience?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to vote against. 4-1 vote, thank you. Item A11.
Item A11 is the approval of the plans and specifications for Part 2 of the runway project out at the airport. This is about a $6.5 million project that the FAA is paying $6 million of to go ahead and finish the reconstruction of the runway and possibly portions of the lead-in taxiway and taxiway alpha that are in dire need of repair. So this will handle the last 2/3 of the runway. We did the worst third last year, and now we're working on the other end. This is Part 2.
Okay. Is there any questions from council?
601, Fund 601, is that the airport fund?
Yes, Fund 601 will show about a $600,000 transfer going into the 212, which is our clearinghouse for the FAA grant, and that's our 10% match of the $6 million we received from the FAA.
Now, the only concern I have is we had a problem on the first phase of this,
That is correct.
but we have never received an update on what happened or what the...
We're still working through that issue.
Isn't this something we want to solve before we move on to this next phase?
No, because if we mess with the scheduling of this, the FAA will take the $6 million and we got to get back in line. And we've been in line for this money for 5 years.
But wouldn't you agree we should have had an update on the problems that happened on the original phase, the first phase of this?
Since we're in the situation we are with the first phase, it's going to move glacially slow at this point because we're talking lawyers and such. So as soon as there is an update, we will bring you an update. But as of right now, nothing has happened.
But what would keep us from having the same problem on the second phase?
If the contractor performs, it will go well. But, you know, I have to, we provide the specs, the contractor has to meet the specs. It's not within our control whether or not the contractor performs. It's our job and duty, according to the FAA rules, to enforce the FAA specs, which we are doing and defending. But it's a process that we need to go through.
But there was some confusion about the specs that caused the problem.
No, there was not.
Just the performance of the contractor.
That is correct.
So will this same contractor be bidding on this if he didn't perform on the first? And will we have to take his bid if he's the lowest bid?
I do not know if the contractor is going to bid or not. That's asking me to tell what's going to happen in the future, and I can't do that. I can tell you as of this morning, that contractor has not downloaded the plans and specs. That's all the information I have. As far as whether or not we need to accept the bid, that would be something that we need to talk to legal about and proceed from there.
And the engineer.
And the engineer.
You can find somebody not to be a responsible bidder, but that carries with it. So,
I understand it causes problems, but at the same time, now we're going to a larger phase of this project, and we can't afford to have the same problem.
I agree.
That's, I guess, why I'm asking why we should have had the update to figure out a solution to this, so that same person.
We're
is
in the
not-
process of solving that problem, and as soon as there's something to provide you guys the information with, I can. Right now, there's absolutely nothing to,
It's in suspension.
exactly.
Yeah.
That CAL FIRE arrived at the airport, so we can't close the runway to make the repairs, so we've had to suspend it till CAL FIRE leaves. Once CAL FIRE leaves, the contractor has an opportunity to repair the runway. If the contractor chooses not to repair the runway at that time, then we will enter litigation to get it resolved.
Any other questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
We do. Marty Richmond?
I'll be brief, I know you're in a hurry, but I think on the item, since it came up, the previous item, the work and the dispute, I don't think we ought to wait till Cal, not quite sure I understood that last input. We should not wait until CAL FIRE leaves. We had to get a commitment from that contractor to fix it before CAL FIRE leaves, and if they won't do a commitment, then we ought to start moving as early as possible. That's number one. Number two is, I have no objection to fixing the runway and using FAA money, but, you know, I'm still a taxpayer at the federal government level, and, you know, I'd like to see some economic benefit from the airport before I die, okay? I mean, I don't know how many years I've been coming to these meetings, and all you get is promises, promises, promises. If this was your significant other, you would have broken it off and left long ago. You know, it's always another promise, another year, and the years just keep clicking by. And, you know, I'm reading the old reports and so on and so forth. And yeah, we let the federal government spend a lot of money, and we let somebody take out for collecting the rent, and we give people 30-year contracts for pumping the gas, and basically there is no real plan to do anything economically. And as far as I can see, we're not getting any benefit whatsoever. We're running a hobby shop. And I don't have anything wrong with a hobby shop. I think the people who have hangars out there who run in a hobby shop should have that available to them. However, the plan was to also have an economic benefit from the airport, and we've put an awful lot of money in there just to have a hobby shop. So we got to do the other part. And I don't see that ever happening. All I ever see is I got a plan for next year, and I got a plan for next year. I got a plan for next year. I can't remember when we did our airport plan. I don't know if that was 10 years ago now or 20 years ago. As I once mentioned to Mr. Clower, it's the jewel of the county. Unfortunately, no one's ever polished it or put it in a setting or put it on their finger. It just sits there. So there's millions of dollars of public funds, and I feel like an idiot to go out and complain that they build unwanted airports in the middle of Pennsylvania that they name after some congressman that only flies out 20 people a day while we're doing essentially the same thing here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So as legal, if we could just make sure of what's going on with this contract, the first phase.
If I could respond to a couple things that were brought up. First point, these funds are aviation funds. They're generated by aviation fuel tax, which is paid by people that buy fuel tax, aviation fuel. So, and Marty, I don't know if you're buying plain gas, but well, that's a separate system. It's private aircraft. Are you flying in little ones?
Well, I don't think we need to go into.
Anyway, that's where this money comes from. Second, we have multiple businesses out at the airport. Some are pretty successful. Anytime Mr. Richmond wants to do a tour of the airport, I'll be glad to provide it for him.
Okay. I think we'll set up a meeting later with the airport commission so we can go over the plans of the future and really get down to detail. But again, if legal can make sure we're covered on this next phase of it is my only concern.
Yes, and to be clear, Mike and I have met with them, with the contractor. I mean, we don't preemptively sue. I mean, we're holding the money. We will defend a lawsuit, so it's, the delay is not from the city's side.
Yes, I know. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Before you do that, we have another speaker for.
We do have another speaker?
Yes. And on A10, who made the motion and who seconded?
Nobody seconded. Not yet.
No, on the one prior to this.
A10.
Oh, I did.
I made the motion and Mickey, Councilmember Luna seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. In an unusual moment, I'm going to differ with my friend Marty Richmond. If, and it really isn't if, but when that large earthquake comes again to San Benito County with our, 20,000 more in population than I think we had last time, we will be very, very appreciative of that airport. General aviation is very important to communities. Having an asset like that airport is extremely important when we need to get emergency supplies delivered here, so on and so forth. You folks just spent $190,000 on a water tender that I don't quite frankly understand, but along that same theme for future needs, I'm a big proponent, as well as everybody that does have an airplane out there and who business owners, which I'm very familiar with, when the state of California decides to make California more business friendly, and when Silicon Valley decides to extend down here, much like they did 20 years ago when I came here, business owners will look at this community very much more favorably when there is a private aircraft for their operations to that take advantage of that. I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm not a pilot myself, but work for several companies that did own aircraft, and we take full advantage of it. And again, when business comes back to California, which I hope it will, you'll be glad that you have that airport. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now, is there a motion?
I'm going to make the
Motion?
to approve.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Gomez seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Move forward to item A12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there something specific? Dave Rubsick isn't available this evening, so I can try to answer any questions that you may have related to this. This is, real quickly, is the road rehabilitation project that is to be conducted on Sarah Vista between Union Road and Sunny Slope Road. It's about 3/4 of a mile. It includes repaving. It does some sidewalk repair and replaces the sidewalk crosswalks, I should say, with thermoplastic. We received 2 bids. Wattis Construction was the low bid at roughly $495,000. The funding comes from Prop 1B monies and I think RSTIP monies as well.
I just wanted to know why we missed the amount by so much money.
From the difference on the engineer's estimate
The
versus
difference,
the
yes.
bid price. When I spoke to them real briefly about that concern, what our engineers were doing was basing it off of sort of the engineering news record and the cost index sort of increases from a project that we completed in 2012. And we assume that with modest growth or modest inflation and the prices that we received from that earlier project, that it was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250,000. We had 22 people on the plan holders list. Only 2 of them, like I said, prepared the bid and submitted it on time to the city clerk's office. I would say when you look at the bid tabulation forms, you would see that, you know, for the work that's actually being done on the project, both companies are relatively close. However, it's the mobilization cost that sort of bounced the other company just a little bit out of it, and I believe that other company was from Fresno. So,
And if I could, Mr. Mayor, this isn't, and Billy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this isn't just a road rehab. I mean, this isn't your standard asphalt replacement. You're also doing sidewalk repairs,
Yes.
gutter repairs, ADA compliance. So there's a lot more, it's more of a comprehensive project than just your standard asphalt replacement.
yes, any time that the city is out doing road work on a major scale like this, we have been required to go back and make sure that all ADA ramps conform with the new guidelines. We try to fix curb gutters when they're dilapidated to a point. I think there's actually some tree removal as well in this particular project.
I understand the,
I apologize, City Attorney Sullivan also mentioned that as we were discussing this in a staff meeting, a lot of the contractors now are just obviously busy and doing much bigger projects. So that's probably why we didn't get a whole lot of competition in this particular project.
that, and I just believe we've talked about this many times, having estimates or having a number so we know what to work off of. I just don't believe we have that in-house, and I want to make sure we start talking to a firm to give us a better idea of what it's going to cost to fix our roads. We can't keep guessing like this and, you know, miss it by 250,000 or 100% here. I mean, that's a lot of money we're
No, there's
making a mistake about. So
yeah,
we
there's
need to
no-
find a firm that's professional, knows what they're doing, to come in here and really advise us, so we have a number to start working off of. These projects might seem like a lot of money, but they're really a pretty small project for these types of companies, and we're going to keep paying the price or overpaying if we don't put a better plan together to get more out of each dollar. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
No vote.
No. There's a
One
no vote. It's 4-1. All right. Let's move to item C, public input.
Oh, 13.
Did you call 13? I'm sorry. Item 13, A13.
Hello, Mickey. This is an item that may be sort of all for naught at this particular time, but staff's recommending still moving forward with an agreement with San Benito High School for the use of their pool. We understand that recently, very recently, there may be a project at the pool to drain the small pool or the shallow pool. I keep saying small, but I mean shallow pool because of some injury and the delamination of the side of the pool. And to make those corrections, the high school district probably won't have the shallow pool available for this summer, which really does put sort of a burden on the aquatics program for the city of Hollister. However, my understanding is that the high school district would still allow us to have the deep pool. It's probably not the best environment for guppies and tadpoles to learn how to swim, but we may look at doing at least the recreational swim or something along those lines. We haven't quite figured out exactly what our plan is, but as of right now, staff is still recommending moving forward with this in the event that we get to use the pool for some activities this summer. The deep pool, I should say.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, my concern would be that the cost that is being passed on to many members of our community where they take the children there for swimming during the summer, would there be a difference in the cost of the agreement with San Benito High School, being that the larger and deeper pool is going to be used instead?
Probably not, and I should also preface this, is that the staff, recreation staff and the high school got together about a month ago. Maybe Mike can tell me if I'm completely crazy on this, but the high school district approached the city with a much higher rate than $65 an hour because of the chemicals and the amount of time that was being spent out at the pool during the summer. We actually negotiated a much lower price, although it was a slight increase. I think we used to pay $50 an hour. We went to $65 to sort of ease ourselves into it so that people, our community, our residents, or the people who are participating in our programs wouldn't see a large increase in their fees, because we try to run this kind of a cost-neutral program. So they were amenable to going to $65 this year, with probably some going next year with some more inflators. But again, they're a lot like we are in the sense that it's costing them more money, and it's hard to give us the same rate that they've been giving us for the last 10 years. So that's kind of where that is. Now, if we don't get to use both, have the entire facility, we can take a look and see what they say about that. And like I said, I'm not so sure how well this is actually going to play out at the end of the day anyway. But if we get a reduced price, then I can come back and report to the council on what that reduced price is.
Yes, I would like to know that. And my concern again would be the cost that is being actually passed on to our community members and children.
Is that it? Any other questions? Is there a possibility to work out something with Ravella's for this year, this season?
There's a couple things that is difficult with Ravella's, and Ravella's is obviously they have their pool, but I believe they have an agreement with San Benito Aquatics. And they offer sort of the same programs we do. They're a little bit more expensive, but I think that it would be one of those situations where Mr. Ravella probably doesn't want to get into a situation where he has competing interests for the same pools, or the same pool. And so I think we've just kind of shied away from having those conversations with him. Because San Benito Aquatics is a pretty successful program over there.
It is. I'm just worried about the pool being so deep for the little ones.
Yeah, and that's why I say we may not do that. We may just have a sort of either an advanced swim stuff or just for recreational swim, so that at least people understand that the small pool is not available.
Is it possible to have that conversation, though, just to make sure?
Yeah, we can do.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? None. Motion passes 5-0 vote. Move forward. Item C, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's move forward to item D1. City manager's oral report.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, let's move forward to item E1.
Thank you. Good evening. The applicant is requesting the City Council to consider a proposal to pre-zone a 1-acre site as prerequisite for annexation to the city in the medium-density residential performance overlay zoning district. The property is located north of Central Avenue, south of Buena Vista Road, west of Calaveras Elementary School, and east of Miller Road. The City of Hollister City Council authorized the initiation of pre-zone application 2010-2I at its regular City Council meeting of September 21st, 2009. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the proposed project and circulated for a 30-day public review period. On April 23rd, 2015, the Planning Commission approved Resolutions 2015-11 and 2015-12, approving the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program and recommending the approval of pre-zone 2010-2I. At the same meeting, the Planning Commission approved tentative map 2013-6 Orchard Park, which is a subdivision of approximately 10 acres, including the 1 acre parcel, into 82 single-family residential lots per PC Resolution 2015-14. Condition of approval number 52 of the resolution states that prior to recordation of the final map, the 1 acre parcel included in this approved tentative map must receive LAFCO approval for annexation. With this, staff recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing, read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce ordinance 1116, an ordinance of the City of Hollister to amend Title 17-24-250 of the zoning code of the Hollister Municipal Code to pre-zone property for annexation, and schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance for the June 1st, 2015 City Council meeting. Are there any questions for staff?
Any question from council? No. This time I'll open it for public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
This time we'll close public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance 1116.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, 5-0 vote. Thank you very much. Let's move forward to item E2.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting the City Council to consider a proposal to pre-zone 6 parcels consisting of approximately 19.89 acres of land as a prerequisite for annexation to the city. No development is being considered tonight. Pending approval of the pre-zone by City Council for these sites, staff will then forward the application to LAFCO for their review and approval of the annexation. However, LAFCO requires that the site first receive a pre-zone approval from the City Council, which is why we're here before you tonight. The site is located south of Hillcrest Road between El Cerro Drive to the west and Los Altos Drive to the east. Section 2.2.18 of LAFCO policy prohibits the creation of unincorporated islands. The project site, together with the properties to the west of El Cerro Drive, comprises an unincorporated island. Although the application for the pre-zone and annexation of the properties in question will be eliminating part of an existing unincorporated island, LAFCO will require the properties along the west side of El Cerro be annexed. For this reason, the City of Hollister Planning Commission at its April meeting recommended to the City Council the inclusion of the properties west of El Cerro to be pre-zoned.
Thank you, Joe. The properties will be pre-zoned low-density residential performance overlay zoning district, R1 LPZ, and that's consistent with the City of Hollister general plan. The City of Hollister City Council authorized the initiation of this pre-zone application because all services were in the vicinity of the project site, including sewer, water, and storm drain mains. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the pre-zoning project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and circulated for a 30-day public review period. Last month, on April 23, 2015, the Planning Commission approved resolutions number 2015-9 and 2015-10, recommending to the City Council approval of the mitigated neg deck and the approval of this pre-zone. Staff will come back at the next council meeting asking for the approval of a resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration. But for tonight, with this, staff recommends that the City Council hold a public hearing, read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce ordinance number 1117, an ordinance of the City of Hollister to amend Title 17-24-250 of the zoning code and pre-zone the property for annexation, and schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance for the June 1st, 2015 City Council meeting. Are there any questions for staff?
Any question from council?
Are all 6 parcels going to be low density?
That's correct, Councilmember Friend. All 6 are low-density performance overlay zone
Which complies with all the other existing property
in the vicinity, in the neighborhood, and in the general plan. That's correct. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? At this time, we'll open it for public hearing. Are there any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
This time, we'll close public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Clower? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Move to item E3.
Well, I guess it's going to be me too. Okay. This item, the item before you is a resolution to annex the development known as Tuscan Sun to the newly formed Community Facilities District Number 4. If you'll recall, the City Council approved this Community Facilities District as a mechanism to finance certain improvements in perpetuity. It takes place sort of lighting and landscape. It's a smaller development. There's not a lot to this particular project as far as offsite improvements and maintenance that the city needs to take care of. So staff is recommending that the City Council approve the resolution in front of you.
Are there any questions from council? Okay, at this time, I open it for public hearing. Are there any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor?
This time, we'll close public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Move on to item E4.
Good evening. This is part 2 of our weed abatement program resolution. You previously approved a resolution allowing us to send letters to owners of vacant lots that needed weed abatement, and there were over 225 of those. We've gained almost 90% compliance, and weeds have been abated. There are still 26 lots that have not mowed their weeds yet. What this resolution does is allow us to hire a contractor to go out and actually do the work and mow those weeds.
Are there any questions? Councilmember Linda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Chief Geringer, when you go out and hire the contractor, do you actually ask for several quotes or from different contractors?
Actually, my understanding is that they've been using the same contractor for many years here, so I think it is something in the future that maybe next year that they should maybe go out to bid and try to get different bids on that. But my understanding is that even since I was here before, it's the same person that's been doing it year after year.
And the second question is that the prior listing that was given to us had a lot more names on them.
Yeah,
So-
the original list was all the vacant lots
All
and,
vacant.
and all the owners. And all of them got a letter requesting them to take care of it themselves. 90% of them did, so it's down to 26 lots remaining. By the time we have our guy out there mowing, many of these might even take care of it themselves once they know we're out there doing it. So usually what happens is we start with 26, but we end up only having to do maybe 15 or 16 of them, and some of the owners get out and do it. They may be procrastinating and haven't got it done yet, but they plan to do it, and they'll get it done before we get to it. So it'll take us several weeks to get it done if we do it all ourselves.
Yes, and my concern would be that people get used to having their lots, maybe the grass cut for them every year, and that would be a major concern because after all, I mean, somebody's spending the time to go out there and cut the lawn or mow this lawn or grass, cut it for the same people. So I really, Mr. Mayor, would like to request a report that will go back 3 years to see how many names appear constantly here, property owners, because I think it really needs to, the property owners need to take care of this themselves. Because I know that I would personally like to see the process of them being billed, how it gets billed, when they pay, because after all, even though we do get the funding from the county, I still believe that we are not providing a service here. We are actually, these people have a responsibility to take care of their property. That's my concern.
I totally agree. And you'll notice that it's not 26 different people on this list. It's there's several of them that are different housing developments and stuff that it's one owner that owns 6 or 7 of these lots, and there's several of those on here that own multiple lots on here.
So it's not that many different owners that we'd be dealing with. It's just getting compliance from some of these out-of-town developers and things to get them done.
Exactly. Yeah, because in the last listing that you gave us, I went through the listing and I actually counted all the same property owners and their properties. And it was amazing to see how many people were actually there. But now that I see the new listing, it's a relief to see that there's not as many, but I still see the names that are duplicated here, where, you know, I mean, these are properties they're owned by somebody that should be taking care of this.
Yeah, this list is accurate. We surveyed all these lots today. So.
Right, thank you.
My only question would be, is obviously it seems to be a issue as far as communicating with these landowners. Are we sure the addresses are correct that we're sending them to, or the person
I believe
responsible?
so. It's right off the tax records, so I believe it is.
I'm just seeing San Benito High School District, and I'm wondering why.
Yeah, we weren't getting return mail.
Okay.
So we didn't get letters back, so.
Maybe we can talk to them in a few minutes here. Give them personally serve them.
Yeah. Maybe they're watching.
Councilmember Friend, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. At this time, I'll open it for public hearing. We have a speaker.
Marty Richmond?
Marty Bush from Hollister. I better be careful what I am thinking, because Councilmember Luna is reading my mind, okay? That was exactly, and I had already filled out the card. Thank you very much. That was exactly my point, which is we ought to modify our ordinance concerning recidivism. We should not be in the lot inspection business for somebody else, and we should not be in the weed abatement business for somebody else because they don't want to do it. So we ought to have some kind of recidivism, because it costs us money to do the inspections, it costs us money to send the letters, it costs us money to keep track of it all, and everything's the price. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I know one particular lot and where it is, I should not mention, I will not, because I don't know the circumstances of the person involved. But it's obvious to me they don't do the weeds, but then they get a letter, they do the weeds, but they don't do the strip between the sidewalk and the curb. Is that theirs, or does that belong to the city? That is my question. And if it belongs to the city, then we ought to be as good as our word, and if we ask them to cut the weeds, we should cut it. Maybe it belongs to them. I have no idea. But you know what I'm talking about. You have a lot,
Right.
sidewalks installed, then there's a
Parking
the
strip.
grass part. And so after they knock that main part down, the part that's left looks even worse, because there's nothing to compare it to. It's twice as high. So thank you very much. I'll take my answer from my seat.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, at this time, close public hearing.
I'd like to make a comment.
Councilmember Friend?
I just want to comment that I completely agree with where Mickey's going with that. The other thing I don't want to see, though, is to go to competitive bidding and get the low bidder. I think we should go with the highest bidder and make this very uncomfortable. So they can get it done for $2,000, I think we should charge them $5,000. So don't try and go out and get the low bidder. Get the guy who does the job when you need to get it done.
Bill, did you want to answer the question about the?
Yeah, every case is a little bit different of Everest property, and Mr. Richmond is absolutely correct. In a lot of cases, it does belong to us. We do have Mike go out, or Mike's guys go out and pick up those weeds when we can. I know we've been doing them off of west and south in that area for several years, but it is most of the time it is us. So we always have like a back of sidewalk and a property line because we ask for dedication, and there's usually a little bit of area in there that does belong to us.
Now we're not doing. Now we're not doing that. That it's just the easement is where the sidewalk is, and even that is owned by the landowner.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called a parking strip, just to be clear.
All right, is,
One other thing I wanted to mention, I believe that, and Christine can correct me if I'm wrong, when these folks actually go and we take care of the property and it goes to the assessor's office, there is a $250 sort of administrative cost that does get applied to the property for our time. If you would like us to bring something back to have that raised, we certainly can do that. We don't want to get into a situation where we're not charging for our time, but we can't necessarily double our fee for things like that as well. So.
Councilmember Lynn?
Yes, and that fee, where does that go? Into the general fund, into the fire department?
Yes, it's a general fund. It's a general fund program. So, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2015-103.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Let's move forward to item F1.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a real brief resolution asking you to support the San Benito County Water Resource Agency's request to increase the amount of turf removal program from 500 to 1,000 square feet. There's been a desire with the current situation and the drought to try to up the ante and remove as much turf as possible. So the program has been relatively successful. We're hoping to get a little bit more cooperation and more interest in the program. So for every square foot that's removed of turf, you're allowed to go to the Water Resource Agency and receive $1. And again, so this is a nice program. We're just trying to double up the amount of turf removal that we actually can take advantage of. So it's pretty straightforward. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, staff is recommending to adopt the resolution supporting the increase in the program.
Is there any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 vote. Move forward with item G1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Mary Gilbert, Interim Executive Director of the Council of Governments. And today I'll be giving you an overview of the results from a telephone survey of San Benito County voters that was conducted on behalf of the Council of San Benito County Governments. Just a little background, the survey was conducted to get voter or information about voter preferences and opinions regarding transportation needs in the region, and also thoughts on potential sales tax expenditures for that. So quickly, the methodology is that this was a telephone survey conducted between March 24th and 29th of this year. We conducted 300 interviews countywide, covering all of the supervisorial districts. And we conducted interviews in English and Spanish using bilingual interviewers. The key findings that we found were that voters really recognize the need for transportation investments in San Benito County, and nearly 80% believe that there's a need for additional funding. The support for a transportation sales tax is above the 2/3 that would be required for any sort of special tax that would be on the ballot for transportation. And we had actually a really resounding 75% of voters supporting that tax for a variety of transportation improvements. And we took some questions about voter attitudes, and we noted that many voters would most likely be a little more comfortable with a sales tax that was defined with a specific expenditure plan. So just a little bit about the issue environment. We asked a question about whether or not folks think that San Benito County is, in general, going in the right direction, or is it off on the wrong track. So 49% said that things are going in the right direction. That's up from a similar poll that was conducted back in June of 2013, where only 42% noted that. So this is just a question that's used to gauge general optimism among voters and kind of take the temperature. So we see that it's going up, and that's common as the economy gets a little better. We see improvement there. We asked voters about their top-of-mind problems, just an open-ended question. What are some top of mind concerns for you in San Benito County? What's the number one thing? And so water was the number one at 17%, and down there in the red is transportation, where we got 5% of folks who said that, and that was not a pick and choose type of question. It was just an organic answer to the question. So 4 out of 5 voters believe there is a need for additional transportation funding in San Benito County. 79% of that, with 50% saying that there's a great need for that funding. So what our polling firm told us with it is that it was pretty rare to see this much concern for transportation in a poll like this. So then we asked questions about a sales tax measure. So these, we did a couple of different questions. One was asking about multi-project. So would you support a half-cent, 20-year transportation sales tax to fund a variety of improvements, including Highway 25, local street and road improvements, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and transit improvements. And so we got 75% there of the support. We also had asked the question about a single project. Would you support that same tax measure just for Highway 25 improvements? And we only saw a 65% approval there, so we're not getting to the 2/3 there. And then just some of the demographics. Support was highest among voters under the age of 50, as well as Hispanic voters. Overall, we've got support among the Democratic voters, as well as 55% among Republican voters, which is a good deal of support there. And then we also were trying to kind of gauge how a sales tax would perform in either the June 2016 or November 2016 election. And based on past voting behavior, the polling firm was able to determine that the yes votes would come through most likely in either election, June or November of 2016. So again, just going through some of the funding priorities, maintaining roads and repairing potholes was number one, 87%, and this is all among different transportation needs. And then we go down the list with Highway 25 coming in at 3rd place with 66% of folks saying that that was their highest priority. We also asked some other attitudinal questions. We asked if people agreed or disagreed with certain statements. With regard to growth, was there too much residential growth and development in my area? 46% said yes, they agreed with that statement. But folks didn't think that improving roads would necessarily lead to more growth and sprawl when we asked that question. It was about tied between 50% saying yes, they agreed, and 50% disagreeing with that statement. And then with regard to tax attitudes, voters support a tax increase for transportation, but there is some hesitancy as well. So people did say that it was crucial to have high quality roads and public transit, even if it meant raising taxes. But there was some hesitancy saying that taxes are actually already high enough. 47% were saying that they would vote against any increase. And then the question that's interesting is we asked them to rate the statement, I trust our local elected officials to properly manage our tax dollars. So we like to hear what people have to say. 46% did agree with that statement. And then another 51% disagreed with that. So that level there says that maybe an expenditure plan might help allay the fears of folks who maybe don't have that trust.
I like how you skipped over the strongly agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So then we took some questions just in general. 2/3 of the voters that we talked to commute at least 3 times a week. And not surprisingly, Santa Clara County was the top commute destination, with San Benito County second, and then going through our other surrounding counties. So in conclusion, the results of this survey definitely showed to us at COG that the county might consider moving forward with the next steps toward a transportation sales tax with a specific expenditure plan that covers a diverse set of projects. So with that, I can answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions from council?
No, I heard the numbers.
Councilmember Luna?
No questions, just a comment. What caught my eye is the Latino vote, or the Latino participation And you said it was in Spanish as well? In
Yes.
Spanish?
Yes, we did. If there was a Spanish speaker on the phone, we could immediately switch to Spanish taking in the poll.
Yeah, and what was the total amount of, or the count of people?
We did 300, and I actually was just looking this morning. I think we only did about 13, I think, was the number of Spanish interviews that were conducted.
What time frame do you do these surveys?
You
The
mean time
evening?
of day? Yeah, it's mostly evening time, and we are able to call cell phones as well as home phones.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Very informative. Let's move forward to item G2.
Good evening. At the May 4th City Council meeting, you asked for a report on the status of the 2013 Community Development Block Grant Award. We've provided a report for you. If you like, I could answer questions in the report, or unless you want a formal presentation.
Is there any questions from the council, or would you like a formal presentation?
No, I don't have any questions.
I don't have a question.
It's the same status we had last year.
I guess we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move to G3, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna?
I was gone for a week, so I didn't see.
Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I have a couple committee reports. On May 7th, we had a San Benito Fire Protection Committee meeting, and we talked to, we got an update on the fire chief status. I believe it's correct, 8 to 10 people are going to be interviewed, and I believe that starts June 4, the interviews for the. We got a station update on Station 4, which is the, Station 3, which is going to be the North County Fire Station. And now it's not going to be next to the jail. They're looking at having it out at Rosa Murata and Fairview, which is another county piece of property that they're looking at adding that. And I believe, Chief, they said early 2016. I don't understand. It's very low on the priority for the engineering department in the county, and they're not going to get to it for a couple of months. So we're looking at spring of 2016 before we have a station out there at the North County. We also discussed the terms of the new contract and made sure everybody was on the same page with that, and I believe we have another meeting to finalize that on June 4, which I will not be at. And then we answered questions about the cost recovery opportunities and the tweaking that was going to be done with that. I don't know if we successfully answered questions on it, but we answered the questions that we had. And that's that on that report. And then we had, the same morning, we had San Benito County Intergovernmental Committees, and we talked about sales tax, and the members that were in the committee that were on the Board of Supervisors had to go back to their board to see if they could get permission to move forward on that. And I understand they had a problem with that, and we're going to have another meeting, a special meeting on the, I guess to explain to the whole Board of Supervisors what was explained to us, because they don't believe the two people that were talking to them. We talked about the parent information night, which was held last Wednesday night, and it went off, probably 200 participants. It was very good, about drugs in the county and what to do with them, how to locate them, how to spot them, how to tell if your kid's on drugs, and handed out a lot of information to folks, and it was done in both English and Spanish through an interpreter. And I think that's about it for the Intergovernmental Committee. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
Nothing to report other than I was absent from COG. We had COG last week, and I wasn't there. Just wanted to publicly announce it. So I did have a deduction in pay for that meeting. So thank you.
Councilmember Clower.
I did not have any meetings.
All right. Ray has covered the meetings I attended, but I also attended the AMBAG meeting in Greenfield. Usually it's in Marina, but they invited us out there. Must say, beautiful city hall out there, beautiful building. Talked mainly about the carbon credits that the grants from those are being awarded now to cities throughout the state, several $100 million, mainly going to those that offered plans that had housing with transportation mixed together. So this will be going on a yearly basis, and I think planning with COG, we could probably put together something here to win back some of our own money. That'd be very, very helpful. Let's move on to item G4, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna?
Actually, I don't have actually a report, but I do want to congratulate the class of 2015 from every school within our city. And I really congratulate the students and the parents because it's our future. Thank you.
Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the Memorial Day celebration, the Memorial Day service that we had at the Vets Hall. Thank you, Mickey, for being there. And I just want to thank the chief, both the chief of police and the fire chief, for talking to the group. Once again, it was a very successful deal. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Gomez?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Clower?
Nothing to report.
Okay, I have nothing to report this time either. City Manager?
Thank you. I just have one quick thing. I want to really thank the Finance Department. Once again, the City of Hollister has received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's our 6th year now in a row, so I want to thank the Finance Department specifically, but really it actually should be, this award probably goes to everybody that works in the city as well as the City Council, because we take finance pretty serious around here, and thanks to Brett especially. So we'll put this up.
Good job, Brett. City Attorney?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Chief?
Yeah, just one thing. I want to congratulate my son for his 2015 graduation from Monterey High School. You made it, son.
City Clerk?
I will congratulate Sarah Mullen for her graduation. And nothing else to report.
Thank you. All right. H, I, J, and K, there's no business. And
Move to adjournment until closed session.
okay. We'll move to adjourn to closed session.
Can we do it in a half hour?
Can we make that, can we do the closed session?
In a half hour? Or less?
Let's try.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
Let's do this.
Okay, we'll move.
Second.
Second.
Get the vote on it.
Race and Clower.